This is Cauldron's Crypt, Season 1, Episode 3, for November 18th, 2016.
Welcome. Welcome to my dungeon.
Welcome to Cauldron's Crypt. I'm your host, Master Cauldron. If you're new to the show, this is a place to dispel myths, get rid of stereotypes, and answer your questions about BDSM and DS relationships. You can call in at 865-268-4005 to leave your questions or visit us at cauldronscrypt.com. Today, we're going to dive deeper into the dominance role and common mistakes that people make as a dominant. But before that happens, we need to talk about some rules to love by. This is actually going to be a shorter episode as I was putting this together. I was trying to break it down to its simplest form, and initially I had determined that I may have to break this up into 2 episodes because I kept adding and adding things. And as I was processing all the information, with things that I've learned over the years, books and people that I've talked to, personal experience, I actually found that it breaks down into some very simple things. With that, I come up with 3 rules, and then I will break down exactly what is the dominant's job and what are the mistakes that are made. The rules to love by, as I call them. The first one, you guessed it, safe, sane, consensual, and informed. And I will say this every single episode. It's a constant reminder to myself, it's a constant reminder to my listeners that it is the most important thing that we have to keep in the forefront of our minds at all times. Is this safe to do? Is it sane to do? Is it consensual? And is it informed? Are all parties knowing of what is going to take place or the possibilities of the things that will take place? You got to keep some things that are agreed upon hidden. You'd plan out every scene exactly, but you do talk about the scenes and the events that will take place and what is and what isn't okay. So when I say informed, and I bring this up because I've had a question about this by a listener, they said, well, when you are preparing for a scene, is every single thing planned out? Because that almost makes it seem boring, and obviously if you're planning it out, it does lack spontaneity. No, but if you go to cauldronscrypt.com/contact resources, halfway down the page there is a limits and kink survey that has not everything, but a lot of, and I mean it's a long survey. Make sure you have a half hour to an hour to fill it out. If you want to include your personal information in there, some of it you have to, because I will receive a copy of it and then I can email it back to you. I'm getting it set up to where it automatically emails it to whatever email address that you put in there. But I won't contact you unless you send me another email or call 865-268-4005 for a consultation. Rules to love by: safe, sane, consensual, and informed. The second one I brought up last week is Kinky, the acronym KNKI: knowledge, no intolerance, kindness, and integrity. And I'm not going to go into detail too much about any of those other than saying that we discussed it last week, and it's pretty self-explanatory. One of the big ones there is the integrity part, not only managing your emotions and yourself properly, but if you know that someone is being abused, standing up for them. There's something called Subspace, and I'll get into that when I talk about the submissive. And once they enter that space, they're more prone to allow things to happen that they may not necessarily want to happen. And that's why it's so important that when you're negotiating what is and isn't okay, you're in a perfectly even headspace. You're not angry, You're not overjoyous. Oh, I've got this new submissive. Oh, I've got this new dominant. And just overly excited, wanting to make them happy, or feeling super adventurous, or new to BDSM and just wanting to try everything at once. There's so much to it. You could literally try something new every day for the rest of your life, starting at 18 years old, live to be 100, and still not try everything. And some things you just don't want to. There are things I don't want to do, and I'm not going to do them, and they will not change. Some of those things I won't mention. It's just, like I've said before, I want to try to keep this podcast pretty close to PG-13. So moving on to number 3. This is a quote. I didn't write this. It's one of those things. You ever hear a song that is so good you just wish that you had written it? That's how I am with this quote. It's by Paul Young, an author. It says, "Submission is not about authority, and it's not about obedience. It is all about relationships of love and respect." Now, thus far, the majority of what I've discussed has been about DS relationships as part of the BDSM community. Now, there are also tops and bottoms, and a lot of people are familiar with those terms, but a top is the one that is committing the act, the bottom is the one that is receiving the act, and that is totally different. And we will get into that, but first I feel that we need to get through the DS section, because that's a lot of what people are trying to jump into, and they don't know anything about it. They're combining the bondage and discipline with the dominant submission in an unhealthy way, and there is definitely a healthy way to do it, and that's really what the initial episodes are about. So if that's what you're waiting for, don't worry, we will get to that. But first, we're hitting on the DS relationship in more of a 24/7 style. All right, so again, that is, submission is not about authority, and it's not about obedience. It is all about relationships of love and respect. That is the key, love and respect. So, moving on to the 3 things that is the dominance role. And this has been a very interesting week. I'm actually re-recording this podcast for the 3rd time. I record on Fridays, I post it by noon on Mondays, and I'm hoping that I can get my cuts done, my edits, and still get it out by noon tomorrow. Because the reason that I've had to re-record it is because I wanted to talk to people about it, and it's been an interesting journey to put it down on paper, even for myself. I've explained it over and over and over to people, and I've read it, but it's always these conversations and these long explanations, and I wanted to give it to you as simply as I could. So, the very simple explanation: respect, leadership, and responsibility. That is the dominance role. As the quote says, love and respect. So the first one is respect, and that is self-respect. I'm the one that has to look at myself in the mirror every day, and am I doing things correctly with my submissives, with my slaves? Am I falling into the trap of becoming an authoritarian and power hungry and getting off on that power and authority? Or am I helping them to improve themselves in a positive way and becoming recharged and energized by seeing someone that I care about improving their life as a person? And that is the respect. Not just them bowing down and kissing my boot, literally or figuratively, or calling me sir or master, or referring to me as their dom or their master. So that is number 1. I've numbered them, but they are all equally important. The second one, leadership. That is something that defines a dominant in a DS relationship. Are you a good leader? Do you read books? Do you talk to people? Not just BDSM books. Some of the best books out there to read to become a good leader are business related. And it shows you techniques both personally and professionally. And when I say personally, I'm more meaning psychologically in how to help the submissive to become a better person. And you're putting in the work to be the leader to that person and for that person. It's not just a simple, oh, well, I woke up this morning, I watched 50 Shades of Grey, I enjoyed seeing the relationship between the two characters, and I relate most to Grey, so I'm a dominant. No, you're not. Not unless you're willing to do the work. Third on that list is responsibility, and I had to break that one down with 4 subcategories. Responsibility for your own self-improvement, responsibility for the sub's improvement, responsibility for safety, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual safety, and responsibility for communication. That one will also be under the submissive's responsibility. And I should say open and honest communication. 100% open and honest communication. The self-improvement I've really touched on under leadership. Like I said, this may be a short podcast because these are very simple things to say. It's not that simple to do. It takes a lot of work and a lot of self-dedication. The sub-improvement, knowing because you talk about it, what they need to improve upon in their life, and implementing the proper strategies, techniques, love, respect, care, and concern to help them nurture those areas in their life. Going into safety, obviously the physical, the mental, to me those are very obvious, along with the emotional side of it, because it is a relationship of love and respect. It's something that you want to take care of. You don't want to hurt them. Play in the bondage, discipline, sadism, and masochism. That's not what I'm referring to when I say the physical hurt. Obviously, that is when pain is pleasure. It's when the pain is pain that you need to make sure that they're taken care of. Also, the physical side. I know a little one who needs a bedtime because she will work herself and just not even realize, hey, it's 5 o'clock in the morning, I've got to be up in an hour for work. So it's very common for her, with her dominance over the years, it is common for her to have a bedtime. And if she is late for that bedtime, which it's midnight, then the next night she has to go to bed at 10. So she's very strict. I've been talking to her on the phone, and it was like a minute till, and she's, oh, I gotta go, it's bedtime, and she just basically hung up on me, which normally would make me mad, but with her, I understand it because she is a very good submissive to her dominance, and I'm not her dom. We've known each other since we were little kids, so that would just be strange for me and her. The spiritual side of that responsibility, making sure that they are nurturing their spiritual beliefs, not yours, theirs. I know someone who is very much an atheist and had a mistress try to turn her into a Buddhist. That's not going to work. There was resentment over that. It was a hard limit that was broken because that was a preset hard limit that, no, you do not have control over my religious beliefs. And for most people, I would say a massive percentage of people, that's just going to be the way it is. You're not going to have power and authority over someone's spiritual beliefs. They may play the game and say that they believe in a different way, but if they truly have those beliefs, you can't just tell them, hey, it's like the same thing about an alcoholic. You can't just say, you're never allowed to drink again, and poof, your alcoholic submissive is all of a sudden a sober alcoholic, and they never touch a drop again. That is unreasonable. So when you're negotiating and you're setting up goals, it is very important that these goals are also obtainable goals, well thought out, and intelligent. And if you need to talk to someone about that, there again, 865-268-4005. Call, leave me a message, or send me an email. You can find my contact